Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishna Project podcast. This is episode number 103. A big thank you to everyone who continues to tune in on a weekly basis from now all over the world. It's fantastic to know that people from all over the world are listening to not to me, hopefully, but to our guests and finding out more about our guests and what he or she has to say. We have a growing audience, and I appreciate each and every one of you that watches the podcast and also sends constructive feedback after. I always get feedback after, and I love to hear about what you think about our publications here at the Hare Krishna Project. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome our 103rd guest this week. It's His Holiness Bhakti Govinda Swami Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It's wonderful to be in your presence.
I'm so delighted to be in your presence as well.
Now, before I start with the first question, just to let everyone know, I first met Gavinda, well, in this life, I first met Gavinda Maharaj in September. Many of you will know, devotees from the Hare Krishna Project went to Rouen in northwest France, and I had a wonderful time at the temple there. I'll let Maharaj explain what it is later on, but I just came away from that trip meeting the devotees feeling very warm and valued and included. And as you know, here at the Hare Krishna Project, we're passionate about inclusive Vaishnavism. I bang on about it all the time. We need to include people. Even my critics say, hey, he's the guy that talks about inclusion all the time. So you know, when your critics know what you're talking about, that you're doing a good job. So I first met Gavind Maraj in September in Rouen, France, and we broke bread together. We had some prasadam together, and it was wonderful. And we've been in touch ever since. So, Gavind Maraj, the first question is the nice, easy question that every guest gets just to kind of warm up. It's, please tell us a bit about you and where you are from.
Originally, I am from Quebec. It's a French part of Canada. And for me, it all started when I was 5 years old. I'll always remember that. When I was around 5, 6 years old, it's just something simple, but for me, it was kind of a spiritual awakening. I remember I was coming out of the shower, looking at myself in the mirror, and I felt like a complete stranger in this body. I was touching my cheeks, pulling the hairs of my skin, and looking at myself, looking at the blood in the veins, and I was thinking, it felt heavy for me, this body. I felt, if I am a person, I cannot be this body. It's not possible. I must be something more than this. But unfortunately, I didn't have any spiritual association to help me understand what was going on with me. Until when I was 11 years old, I came to meet like Tibetan monks, Buddhist Tibetan monks. My mother, she hosted 15 Buddhist Tibetan monks for a weekend. So they spend the whole weekend with us. They will wake up at 3:30 in the morning, chant mantras. very, very, very quick. And I was really inspired by it. It's the first time I heard mantras. And I was completely mesmerized. I was really touched by their wisdom, by their simplicity, by their happiness. And one of them, he stayed in Quebec. So my whole childhood, I would spend a lot of time with him. He would teach me meditation, and this is how it started with me. And over the years, I became a social worker. I traveled all around the world. I tried to become a monk in 5 different religions and spiritual movements. And every time I was trying to become a monk, it didn't work. Krishna had other plans for me. And ultimately, I met the devotees. I went to, in 2005, I went to India for the first time. And I wanted to do volunteer work on an organic farm, on woofing within workers on an organic farms. And I found this community, Bhaktivedanta Eco Village in South India, in Karnataka, in the mountains, away from all civilization. And I spent 4 months there, and they were devotees. And naturally, I started to know more about Krishna when I was with them. And the first service I did to the devotees was taking care of cows. They had like 13 cows. In the morning, I will wake up early, feed the cows. Then I will take the milk from the cows, and then I will bring them with like a stick, take the 13 cows and bring them together to the forest, and then come back and clean the goshala, the barn. It was a very special moment. So my first time was doing devotional service, was serving the cows. So for me, that was very special. Then I got in this trip to go to Mayapur. I met the devotees there. Then I became a social worker, and I went through my life's experiences. And ultimately, I decided to take another step in my spiritual life, because I always wanted to be a monk, but there was always something not working. And then finally, Krishna, he opened the way for me. And I was able finally to make the step and get into an ashram in Montreal. This was in 2010. And then I got to be able to associate with monks and become a monk myself also, and get deeper into understanding who is Krishna, develop my relationship with him. So that has been a very special journey for me.
Wow. I'm intrigued about usually I ask a guest about their upbringing in terms of, did you have a religious upbringing? And I'm very intrigued that at the age of 11, your mother was hosting Tibetan monks. How did that come about? Was your mother a practitioner of that particular religious tradition?
Not really. She was just spiritual. I remember when I was in her womb, she was doing yoga, meditation, and my grandmother,
Wow.
when she would look at her like pregnant like this and doing meditation, she was thinking, I wonder what the son, what it would look like. When he comes out. But no, she was spiritual, not really Buddhist, but she was quite spiritual. And she got, to meet some friends, and she had a big house in the countryside, and she was invited to host these monks for a weekend, and she decided to. And for me, that was very a life-changing experience in my life. Meeting monks, it really inspired me to go towards monastic life,
Mm.
because what inspired me the most in monastic life is to dedicate myself fully to spiritual practice. That's what really inspired me, because I could see that they had like a sincere and profound spiritual practice. And I could see that if I would be able to do that myself also, I will be able to awaken more spiritually.
Mm. Amazing. And you mentioned that in 5 different traditions, you've
Yeah.
kind of tried to become a monk.
Yes.
Just out of interest, which traditions were they? Were they?
Well, it started it started like with more like Hinduism. No, I guess it started with Tibetan
Mm.
Buddhism,
Mm.
because my Tibetan monk friend, he was teaching me a lot about Buddhism. So when I was 16 years old, I told him, I'm really inspired by what you're doing, and I really want to become a monk. He told me, you're still young, you have to wait a little bit. But I was ready. I was feeling, the deep inspiration to practice monastic life. And I said, wait a little bit, you're too young. So it stayed like that. Then when I was 18 years old, I did like a intercultural exchange. And I spent 3 months in the province of Canada with 8 Thai people and 8 Canadians. And then we went together to Thailand, to the south of Thailand. And I was staying in a Buddhist family. They had like a pineapple and mango farm, and they were very spiritual. They will offer food to Buddha. It's interesting, huh? Even though people might not understand that God is a person, they still
Mm.
have this inclination
Mm.
to do something personal. And you can see that quite a lot in Buddhism, in Thailand, in Vietnam. But my family there, my host family, they were offering food to Buddha. They had a nice statue of Buddha. Every day they were offering food to Buddha. And on the weekends, on Sundays, we will go there was a nice temple in the mountains, and there were monks there. I would love to go there, meet the monks, speak with them. And there was like a cave, since it was in the mountains. There was a cave there, and there was an old monk. He was meditating in the cave. And every Sunday, I will go meditate with him in the cave, and I will ask him questions about spirituality. So again, I was quite inspired to become a monk then. That's why I wanted to go to Thailand, to be with monks, to be in temples. And I remember when I came back from Thailand, my father, he brought me from the airport. We're in the car together. And he said, he turned toward me and he said, what do you want to do now? What are you inspired to do? I said, Father, I want to become a monk. He almost had an accident when he heard this, because he, for him, like the father, he wants the son to do something nice materially. He wanted me to have a nice career, something like a journalist or something like that. And when I told him that I wanted to become a monk, it's like his dreams for his son were like falling apart. So at the beginning, it was hard for him, but then he got inspired by what I was doing. He saw that I was changing and it was positive for me. And then, so there was Thai Buddhism. So that's the second one. And then when I was in Thailand, I read this book, Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda. So he's more in the Mayavadi philosophy. But that's how I heard about Krishna for the first time. I read from his book about Krishna. He was speaking about an avatar. And then I remember that I bought his book. He made a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, but it was more impersonal. It was the more impersonal aspect of God. And then as I was reading the commentary, I felt a little bit confused. It was too abstract for me. And I remember I was praying God in my heart. I was asking, oh, please, God, please send me a Bhagavad Gita that I can read, that I can understand, that helps me to understand the absolute truth fully. So I was praying like that. And I remember everywhere I was going, every time I will go to a library, I will look for Hindu books, for Bhagavad Gitas, for commentaries. I will go to used bookstores to find like books like Bhagavad Gita. And everywhere I was looking like that to find a new Bhagavad Gita. And then I went to Switzerland. My mother, she was living there. So as usual, I went to the local library and I went and I looked into the Hindu books and I saw the Bhagavad Gita as it is. I said, wow, a new Bhagavad Gita with a comment. And it was in French because it was in the French part of Switzerland. And, wow, a French Bhagavad Gita, because the Gita I bought before from Yogananda was in English. And since I'm French speaker, I wanted to have a Gita in French also. So I saw, wow, Bhagavad Gita as it is. And I turned in the back and I saw Prabhupada. And when I saw him on the picture, it really inspired me. I said, wow, who is this special personality? It's a picture, it was an old edition of the Bhagavad Gita, 1977, something like that. And it was sitting on a chair like that, very peacefully, very content. And that's the first time I saw Prabhupada. It was very special. That's why for me, books are special. I keep distributing books because that's how I joined, actually. So I looked inside the book and I saw that because, I could not buy the book. It was from a library. So I saw that there was like a publishing house in France, in Paris. I said, wow, okay, I'm going back to France because I was working for the summer in France there. So I'm going back to Paris and I was there for a weekend and unfortunately, I didn't get the time to go to that publishing house, which doesn't exist anymore, by the way. So it stayed like this. I was disappointed. I could not find the Bhagavad Gita as it is in French. So I'm coming back to my country. My father lives very far away from Montreal, like 6 hours away. It's in the middle of nowhere. You have to cross mountains to go there. It's very lost. So it's small town. Nobody's there. There's not so many meditation centers and everything. So I go to the used bookstore, the local used bookstore. I go inside, and what do I find for $5? The Bhagavad Gita as it is, Krishna book, and Antimatter and Eternity. 3 books of
Wow.
Prabhupada.
Wow.
And I was like so overjoyed because it took me a couple of months, actually, maybe it went on like that for 2 years. I was looking for books everywhere, and I found these books it was like a revelation for me when I saw these books. They were like shining. And I was so happy. So I bought these books, and the first book of Prabhupada I read was Krishna book. And it's interesting how Krishna makes these arrangements because I was at school at that time. And I read it, and it was October, November, like during Kartik time. As I read, and first, I started to read the Krishna book, like hear about Krishna in Vrindavan, the gopis, the sakas, and I was mesmerized. But because I didn't have any association, then I was a little lost in this. But that's when I started to look for a spiritual community in India. I wanted to do some volunteer work. And I was looking in the list of organic farms in Woofing website. I found Bhakti Vedanta Eco Village. I said, wow, that's the Swami that wrote the Krishna book that I just read. So you see how Krishna makes these special connections. Then I applied, I went there for 4 months, and that's when, I met the devotees there, and it was just so special how Krishna made these arrangements for me all the way, for me to connect with Prabhupada, to connect with the devotees, with Krishna. It's just so amazing. And something special also, I must say. I was staying in that village. It's very beautiful. It's like it's the jungle, the waterfalls everywhere. It's quite heavenly, very beautiful. And as I was there for the 4 months, I was so inspired to serve the cows that I wanted to stay there and buy a house, because there was like a family close by that were selling their house for $2,500 Canadian. And they had like 1 acre of land with bananas and mangoes, and I wanted to stay there. So I thought maybe I will go back to Canada for 1 year. I'll raise some money, then I'll buy this house and I'll stay there for the rest of my life. And as I was thinking like this, at the end of my trip, of my pilgrimage, I would say it was more like a pilgrimage, I had this special realization in my heart that no, actually, I should not stay here. And I didn't know much about preaching at that time. I didn't know much about a mission. I was just very new. I just met the devotees there, started to read the Bhagavad Gita, but I was new to, all these missionary activities. So, but I got this realization in my heart, and that will inspire me forever, definitely. That actually, no, I should go back to the cities and I should preach. I should preach, the teachings of Krishna. I should try to help people to connect. But I was new, I didn't know anything, but Krishna gave me this inspiration to preach, but to study, but then to teach Krishna's teachings to others and try to inspire people to awaken their consciousness and connect to Krishna. And then, what I realized, I got this inspiration in my heart. I felt that, no, if I do that all my life, because I was attached to the cows, it was very special. I wanted to spend the rest of my life serving the cows. And then I had this inspiration in my heart that, no, if I do this for the rest of my life, if I take the sacrifice of taking care of others, helping them to grow in spirituality, then Krishna will help me in my next life to stay with him in his village forever and be able to take care of the cows forever, for eternity.
Wow, sounds beautiful. Sounds wonderful.
So that really inspired me. And so like I was saying, I became a social worker, worked in different countries, did projects. And then I became a monk. And, okay, I'll speak a little bit about my work as a social worker. Actually, what brought me to become a monk? I mean, I always wanted to be a monk, but then my life's experiences and desires brought me to become a social worker. I was in a relationship at the time also. And then I was working with my girlfriend. We were working together in New Delhi with Burmese refugees. They were like child soldiers from 13 to 17 years old. And so they escaped Myanmar, Burma, to take refuge in India. And they were in Delhi because there's the High Commission for Refugees in Delhi. And when you get accepted as a refugee, they receive money every month. So there were like a lot of Burmese kids from 13 to 17 years old that were in Delhi. So there was an organization that was connected to the United Nations. I was working with this organization, this NGO. And I was, like making social activities for the youth, for the Burmese refugees, helping them to have a home, work, like meeting them regularly to make sure everything was going well for them. But as I was working with these kids, I really got some realizations actually, because they were living like a living nightmare. They were like child soldiers from the past, and in Delhi they were like abused by Indians, and it was very, very hard. And one kid came to me once, he described to me what he was going through. It was like a living hell, I'm saying, and it really, really pained me deeply. And I was looking at these kids, they were just 13 to 17 years old. They were very they were simple and innocent. And then I said to myself, but how is that possible? That kids like that, they go through such hell. And that's when I started to accept karma more in my life and in the life of others also. Because I realized that no, for kids like that to experience things like this, there must be some cause to this beyond just like they're born in Burma. And that's when I realized that yes, karma means one action brings different reactions, that brings different actions and reactions, like a chain reaction over many lifetimes. That's why it's hard to understand why bad things happen to good people. So that was the first thing. And then I thought to it was my personal experience. I thought to myself, if actually I keep doing this work without bringing spirituality, I'm actually hurting more these people, these kids. Because I was thinking, I'm helping these kids to get a better material life. That is good and that is necessary, but without helping them to understand the other soul. And for that, I felt I was doing violence to them actually. Because I was thinking, I'm helping them to reinforce the ego, have like more material attachments. And actually, I'm not like helping them to understand the goal of life. I'm not helping them to free themselves from the shackles of material existence. So that's why, just like, it is said in the Bhagavatam that if you are a father, if you cannot liberate your dependents from the cycle of birth and death, then you should not be a father, you should not be a mother, you should not be a teacher, you should not be a guru. And I really felt like that. And I thought to myself, if I really want to help others, actually the highest welfare activity, just like Prabhupada said, is to help people to connect to Krishna. This is the highest welfare activity, Krishna consciousness. Because then you give people the best gift in the world, because actually, just like Prabhupada said, there are no material solutions for material problems. There are only spiritual solutions, meaning you can give material solutions, but it is temporary. It is not solving the main problems of life, birth, death, old age, and disease, And that's where I felt that, no, if I want to really give the best thing to people, help them to receive the highest gift, I have to have them connect to Krishna. So that's what really inspired me also, not only to be a monk, but to teach to others and help others awaken consciousness.
Wow. That's wonderful. I mean, I'm pleased you've told us about your work as a social worker, because that was one of my questions anyway, to ask you about that, and just to hear about the things that you did and what you experienced in New Delhi is wonderful. I'm always intrigued to meet devotees, particularly those that are maybe in the sannyas ashram or brahmacharya ashram, and find out what they were doing before, what led them to make these decisions in their lives, to live a much more monastic life. And I would say my background's kind of similar to yours, in the sense that I was doing lots of material things in terms of that were maybe good for social welfare, running community projects, helping people materially. But after a while, I realized I wanted to help people spiritually, because these material answers were providing happiness for a short period of time. They were providing comfort for a short period of time. But actually, we want to show people an eternal happiness. People can be happy forever, if possible. How long were you a social worker for?
I would say 5 years. Yes.
Wow, wow, wow. I feel like you've done a lot already. Um,
That's true. I did a lot already. That's true. And okay, yes, there's one thing I must say, yes,
please.
because I was speaking about my personal spiritual awakening, but there's one thing also that really was like a life-changing experience for me. I was 18 years old. I was under a tree, sitting under a tree, and I was looking at this beautiful sunset. And I was just appreciating the beauty of the nature. I was in the present moment. And as I was like this, all of a sudden, just in the middle of nowhere, I felt a deep surge of like deep happiness. My whole body was vibrating, shaking. I was crying, I was smiling, and I felt so much joy. Just like God gave me this experience to show me that there's something beyond just the beauty of this world. And I really, I felt like it was a moment of awakening for me. I felt very deep joy, and I felt like I felt my soul. I really felt my soul, who I am. And as I was experiencing this for a couple of months, I had these experiences like that, where I had some like deep joy in my heart, not doing anything, just sitting, and then like my whole body vibrating and feeling a deep sense of happiness, and also just understanding things about life, about the soul. It just came like that, like Krishna in my heart, Krishna, the super soul, giving me these realizations and these experiences to help me to go deeper in life. And it stayed like that, but unfortunately, and that's for me, that was a good lesson that I want to teach others also, is that what happened, I was 18 years old, and I didn't have at that time enough good association to help me understand what I was going through. And unfortunately, as I was looking for that happiness again, I tried to look at it like externally in the things of this world. So I tried to do it like as a social worker. I traveled all around the world. I did a lot of countries, worked in different places. And I must say, in this life, I must have some kind of good karma, because everything I wanted to do, every desire I wanted, I will realize it. It happened like that. I wanted to work with like refugees, work like with kids in the Amazon, like in the South America, to go like to discover like the Amazon River, do things like that, walk in the Himalayas. All these desires, they will get fulfilled. And after doing that for like 7, 8 years, I felt like I was going back, at the starting point. And I realized that actually I've done all these things, but I feel my soul has done nothing, like my soul is stuck. Just I've done so many things in this world, but my soul is still there, and my soul still needs awakening. My soul needs to wake up to its reality. And that's when I realized that, yes, actually, I did it wrong. I was going here and there, doing this and that, meeting these people. But what I really wanted to find was inside of me.
Wow. Wow.
So for me, that was a life-changing experience. And I'm telling people a lot this when I go to yoga places and speak to people into spirituality. I tell them, okay, I'm sure I'm telling you my lesson I learned. Please don't do the same mistake like me. Don't take, more like 20, 30 years. I mean, for me, it was 7, 8 years. But don't take all these years, like trying to find something that is already inside of you. And there was this sage one that said that we have a paradise inside of us. It's Krishna is there, the soul is there. So I didn't know at that time, but we have a paradise inside of us. So everything is there already. It's not just like Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. It's just the natural disposition of the soul. This is so beautiful.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. I love just listening to you, by the way. You're very good at explaining things and sharing information in a way that's easily digestible. So thank you for all of that. Please tell us a bit about your seva or your service as a sannyasi. So you've already told us about why you entered the sannyas ashram, but maybe share with us uh, what happens in the day-to-day life of a sannyasi. What do you do on a day-to-day basis? Because a lot of people will have questions about, what is a sannyasi? What do they do? How do they live? Particularly those of us from Western culture, where men wearing orange or saffron isn't a daily part of most people's lives. So what is your seva, and what's the average day of a sannyasi look like?
Well, I would say first, before I became sannyas, I was brahmachari for over 10 years. And it's quite the same. I mean, other things are there, but I would say as a sannyasi, naturally, but living in the temple, we do the morning program every morning, Mangalarti, doing our personal sadhana, studying also, to be able to understand more ourselves, but to be able to teach to others. I find that sannyas means also first of all, to be a servant of everyone. That's what sannyas means. And I do remember something about this. When I started into the Brahmachari ashram before, at the beginning, I was a social worker before, and I did a lot of projects, took a lot of initiatives. And my bhakta leader, I was telling him, I'd like to do this and that and this. And he said, you know what? First, you have to become a servant. then you can be a servant leader. And this really struck with me. First, you have to become a servant. So as brahmachari, you start being a servant, and as sannyas, you become a servant of everyone. Definitely. So I will say that's the first service, the first occupation is to be a servant of everyone, and to feel like gratefulness to be able to serve others. Because I would say that in this order, we feel very small. Because, like to be able to give Krishna to others, first we need to receive Krishna in the heart. But also, I would say that in order to be able to teach to others, we really have to develop humility in the heart. This is something that is very, very, very important. Because if you see Prabhupada was a transparent medium of the mercy of his guru. So to be a sannyas, you have to develop humility so that you can become a transparent medium of your spiritual master and the guru parampara, so that the chit shakti, the chit shakti, which is the energy of Krishna that helps us to realize him, to receive him in the heart, to give him to others, that it can come in the heart. So first and foremost, we have to develop humility, simplicity, very important. Actually, two very important qualities of Krishna and Vrindavan is humility and simplicity. And I find that for sannyasi, it is something that is very important, because when you serve others, sometimes there's a tendency for people to want to give you respect and things like that. And that is why it is very important to understand your place when you're a sannyasi, that you're just a small, simple servant that is the mercy of the devotees. Actually, I felt, and I'm only here today present with you all because I received so much mercy in my life. And I am just the product of this mercy. So first and foremost, I wanted to say this. But like I was saying, so as a sannyasi, our goal is to be a representative of our mission, of our spiritual master, also to help people, to accompany people in their spiritual life, to give them advice, to guide them in order to help them to go more deeper in their spiritual life. This is something that is very important also. But I would say that being sannyas, I learned so much from serving others, so much from being able to be with them and share with them. And for me, that is very rewarding. The more you serve others, the more you see qualities in them. And the more you realize that you don't have so many qualities. That's the thing, As we serve people, we realize that we're just, insignificant. And seeing these people grow, so it inspires me to grow myself also more in my spiritual life, in my relationship with Krishna. But I learned so much from helping others, from serving them. So I would say that's one thing, to be a representative of our guru, of our mission, to teach, transcendental knowledge to others, to accompany them in order to help them to grow. Help them understand really the process of devotional service, because there are a lot of subtleties in this. I mean, this world is complicated. We are a spirit soul in a material circumstance, an external circumstance that unfortunately is always pushing us to forget who we are. So that's why it's really important, I find, as a sannyasi, to help others to understand the subtleties, about the false ego, about mixed devotion, doing things for Krishna, but trying to take for myself, calculate things in my life, things like that. Helping others to go more towards pure devotional service, because the thing is that, unfortunately, as we grow in our spiritual life, there's a lot of traps. And as we connect more with Krishna, we receive, bliss naturally. When you serve Krishna, you serve the devotees, the guru, naturally you receive happiness. And we can be attached to that happiness, to that satisfaction we get from performing devotional service for ourselves. And then it can become like a little complicated. It contaminates a little bit our devotional service. So I find that's important also as a sannyasi, to help others demystify these things, to perceive, the anarthas, that are the unwanted things that are there in the heart, that push us to use devotional service for our own gain. Actually, Prabhupada, he says in the chapter 21 of Nectar of Devotion, that we can feel complete bliss in Krishna consciousness, thinking that this is devotional service, but this is just the contamination of the false ego. So this is very important, and it's not just performing devotional service, but it is doing it in a proper consciousness, disposition, state of mind. Very important. Otherwise, we can, instead of growing the Bhakti Lata Beach, the creeper of Bhakti, we may grow weeds in the heart that look exactly the same. If you go in the garden, you see that some weeds, they have beautiful flowers. I've seen that. I worked a lot in gardens as I did volunteer work before. And you see some weeds, they have beautiful red, purple flowers, but they're weeds, and they take power and energy from the other plants. So I think that's one thing that is important also. And I would say one other responsibility for ourselves is to, when you try to give Krishna to others, you need to receive Krishna in your heart. So that's why taking sannyas pushes me also to go deeper in my own spiritual life, in my own relationship with Krishna, because you cannot give what you don't have. You can only give what you have. So it's nice, there's like a internal pressure when you are sannyasi to actually always do better, always grow more, to go deeper in your spiritual life. It pushes you. There's like a nice dynamic there where it pushes you to take more spiritual maturity. And this, I feel very grateful for that. And I will say that taking sannyas also, Krishna, I would say not only taking sannyas my whole spiritual life, Krishna has never kept me in my comfort zone, never. When you want to attain pure devotion, when you want to really develop your relationship with Krishna, you need to accept that Krishna will take everything away from you. And that I've experienced that a lot in my life. When you really want to Krishna, when you really want pure devotion, Krishna takes everything away from you. He never keeps you in your comfort zone. And he pushes you all the time by sending you tests. And the tests, I would say, they go from gross to more and more and more and more subtle. So this is what is very special taking sannyas. I keep receiving tests helping me to go deeper, and I'm so much grateful to Krishna for keeping me on the loop with this, always keeping me out of the comfort zone, sending me these tests to grow deeper and take more maturity, internal maturity.
Well, I can certainly vouch for what you said about simplicity and humility. When I came to visit the temple in Rouen in September, one of the things that struck me and that I was positively impressed by was that there were two sannyasis in the room. We were having prasadam together, and both sannyasis, you're one of them, sat with everyone else as if we were equal. And you and I sat together, and we were just talking, just like two friends. And I felt very comfortable, because sometimes I think with some religious leaders in lots of religious traditions, not just Gaudiya Vaishnavism, there's that inferiority issue. And I think for me, I've always been a bit of a maverick, and I've always struggled personally. I've always struggled with authority my whole life. So to me, to sannyasi that I can really just have a nice positive conversation with and just feel that positive connection. I have felt that elsewhere in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. It's not just in Rouen, but I personally think it's quite rare to find that. And you were spending time with me and other devotees and just talking as if we were both serving the Lord together. And I mean, we are. And I really appreciated that.
I will say regarding this is an important point, like you were speaking about, taking sannyas and everything. There's one trap, one danger of taking sannyas is that you can use it to for profit, adoration, and distinction. And you may feel that you are like someone special, that you're superior, and this and that. And this is quite a danger because actually, we're not. I mean, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I am not sannyasi, I'm not brahmachari, I'm not grihastha, these are external things. I mean, for eternity, I'm not a sannyasi. It's just a role. You know, yes, it's a role that is favorable for devotional service and for serving in a mission, definitely, but it's just a role. It's just a hat. So why would I feel special with this hat? It's just a hat. I mean, in my eternity, I'm not a sannyasi, you know? So I would say we have to understand the whole picture. I mean, there's no question, at least externally speaking, there's no question of junior and superior. I mean, no, I would say at least internally speaking, I'm saying the opposite. Internally speaking, there's no junior superior. Externally, yes, there's culture that is there. There are roles, there's social etiquette, there are things like that. And naturally, some people have more spiritual advancement, so they take some positions and things like that. But internally, we're all the same. I mean, we're all spirit souls. And when you understand what we're meant to, what is the true ultimate goal of life is to go back to Krishna. And when you understand what's going on with Krishna and his associates, Krishna, he has millions of gopas, of friends. I mean, it's not that one is superior to the other, you know? Like when you attain, which we all hankering for, when you attain the spiritual world, I mean, you become part of a big whole family, you know? It's like Krishna is there with millions of sakas and cows, and then, you know, the parents are there. There's birds, trees. I mean, this is what we have to understand. I mean, in the spiritual world, it's not about, there is hierarchy, but it's governed by love, not governed by position or power or control. You know, that's why there's the danger in a mission that we try to be too much in control, in power, in position, in manipulation, and this and that, and we lose that connection with the spiritual world. Because in Goloka Vrindavan, there's no like a flag of this institution or this. There's just one big whole family. But in this world, because we are in an external world, it's an expression of the external energy. Then we live things externally. And because of that, we have these things of position, of institutions, of this group is better than this one. But this is completely illusory and temporary, because in Vrindavan, it is not at all like that. So we really have to understand what is the spiritual reality. And you feel it when you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, when you understand, when you read about the story, the culture of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associate. It was not like that also. It was the culture of the spiritual world. So we have to be careful in these things that we don't get mixed and contaminated by this, and you know, this aspect of institution, of like creating too much differences between different groups. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says in the Chaitanya Shikshamrita that the 11th offense in the Sankirtan movement is sectarianism, is when we forbid one devotee to go see another Vaishnav group because they are different from us. And he says this is an anartha in the Sankirtan movement. This is very important. Actually, we must appreciate unity in diversity, and we must understand that just like in the spiritual world, there's diversity. You know, there are gopis that are left wing, gopis that are right wing. I mean, you have gopis in the middle. Some sakis are more attached to Krishna, some sakis are more attached to Radharani. Gopas, I mean, there's a lot of diversity. So why do we want in this world things to be just like in a box? It has to fit in this box. Everyone has to be like this. As soon as it's another box with another color, another look, then I reject it. This is what we call kanishta adhikari. This is the material consciousness where we perceive life based on mundane morality, mundane justice, mundane politics, and mundane economics. And this is a problem because it keeps us in a material consciousness. We have to understand that it is not at all like that in the spiritual reality. So that's why we have to be careful. Just like in the spiritual world, there are different moods. In this world also, that's why there has to be different institutions. If you see in Christianity, Jesus Christ, I mean, it's not that there's just one group today. There's Protestants, there's Catholics, you know, there's Orthodox, but they're all connected to Jesus Christ. If you take example, I'm sure in the future, if you take Srila Prabhupada, you know, special personality, there's no one like Srila Prabhupada. So naturally in the future, there will be different groups coming out. It's just that it's not that just one institution should have the monopoly and the proprietorship of Srila Prabhupada. Just like Jesus Christ is for everyone, Srila Prabhupada is for everyone. And that's why in the future, just like us, we're connected to Prabhupada, like I was, we're discussing before the interview. Here in our mission, in our temple, we are more connected to Prabhupada at home, That's the mood, more family mood, but we're connected to Prabhupada. Prabhupada is there. Prabhupada is in my heart. I mean, but it's just that we have to understand that naturally, in connection to Prabhupada in the future, there will be different groups coming with different moods, still connected to Prabhupada, but with different moods and different, ways of preaching and this and that. It's natural. Just like, in the spiritual world, Krishna is there. Radharani is there, but she has all kinds of Sakis, all kinds of different groups. There's Chandravali also, which is like a rival to Radharani. But at the same time, there's unity and diversity. There's complete harmony. And that's what we're lacking here because we're perceiving these things based on the material consciousness. And because of that, we create these material differences are creating like a split in between Vaishnava groups, creating distances. And because of that, we start committing offense, saying, oh, this group is not authentic, this Vaishnava is not like this, like that. And we're losing the point that actually, like myself, I'll give you a personal example. I was in another group before, another institution. And as I came in this mission, because, it's just out of love, love is beyond any logic and reasoning. That's what I realized. I came in Rouen and I fell in love with the devotees there. I fell in love with Maharaj here, with all the family here. It's just, I fell in love. What to do? So I was conquered by love. So I had to stay here, because of love. But what happened, because I was in another institution, at that time I was brahmachari, and I had responsibilities in this mission before. As I came here, because I was leaving my responsibility and coming out of an institution, I was seen like as an heretic. I was seen as someone who had made too many offenses, someone who didn't have enough faith in Srila Prabhupada, But the thing is that actually, I'm still the same person. I have not changed like I was in that mission. I still have the same love for Prabhupada. I still have the same attachment and the same relationship with him. But it's just that I'm practicing it in a different mood, like I was saying, more with Prabhupada at home. And that's why, I got this realization from this, that Prabhupada is for everyone. And Prabhupada is not found only just in one mission. Prabhupada is for, just like Jesus Christ is for everyone. Prabhupada created a house by which the whole world can live. So that's why we have to open our consciousness to understand that just like Prabhupada in the spiritual world, what happens, Krishna in Vrindavan, there are group leaders, and each group leaders have millions of disciples. And each group leader has millions of disciples that have different groups in there. Like one group leader has 8 main disciples, which are themselves group leaders, a little different one from the other. So there's diversity, So that's what I started to realize myself. And I wanted to share because I find in our Sankirtan movement today, we are a little bit, we have these complications, and we're not able to create unity and diversity. And because of that, we commit a lot of offenses. And for me, it really pains my heart. I've experienced that myself. And I've seen others experiencing it. And I've seen these sometimes these conflicts, which are generating so much negativity. And for me, we are actually destroying our bhakti when we do this. We should not, we should be careful how we treat others, especially when we speak about Vaishnavas, We all have Krishna in our heart. All Vaishnavas, they worship Krishna. How can we be, we have to be careful. I think it's important to give proper respect, understanding that we ourselves first are so insignificant and that we need to work so much on ourselves. We should think first, what do I have to do first for myself to get away from these anarthas? How can I take more much? Should be our mission, personal, instead of trying to look faults in others and criticizing and this and that. No, look at yourself in the mirror. You have so much work to do on yourself.
Wow. Thank you, Maharaj. I find your words very inspiring. A couple of times then you mentioned the mission that you're part of now. I would now love to talk about that mission. So you've been quite involved with the Radha-Kripa Mission in France for a number of years. Please tell us a bit about the mission in terms of the temple, the projects, and the various things that the Radha-Kripa Mission gets up to on a weekly or monthly basis.
So we have many projects going on, quite busy actually. So we have our main temple, which is in Rouen. And first, I would like to speak a little bit about that temple because, like you said, it's a special place. And that's why, I I was conquered by love here because we also have very special deities. If you look, maybe you can, we can show like some pictures, or you can look on Facebook.
Yes, I'll put a link to your Facebook page and the
Okay.
website.
Yes, you can check. We have very beautiful deities. We have like Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda Mayikri. Gopal is sitting on the lap of Mother Yashoda. Then there's Balaram, there's Subhasaka, one intimate friend of Krishna is there. There's Davalin Yamuna, cows of Krishna and Balaram. We have Radha Kunja Bihari, Nitai Vishwambar, Gauridas Pandit. And we have just very special deities. And that's why, I think there's a special mood there. It's more like when I came here for the first time, I remember when I opened the doors to the temple, I felt, wow, this is Vrindavan. And we really feel like home. And there's a homey mood because when you look at the deities on the altar, you see a whole family that is there, welcoming you. And I would say that's really the mood of our mission. We're a family. First of all, we're a family, and that's what you felt, when you came and you were saying we're discussing together. For us, we're a family. There's no superior than, I mean, like Maharaj, which is the Acharya of our mission, is like the father, naturally, But in the family, there's always a father, but then there are sisters and brothers and uncles, and it's more like that. We're more like a spiritual family, and this creates like a mood of like trust, friendship, sharing, which is very necessary to deepen our relationships and feel good in one place, feel appreciated, feel like respected. And for me, I think it is very important to have that, especially when you have devotees living together over the years for many years. I mean, austerities are there. And if you want to create a nice, like, loving mood, there has to be family mood there, in order to create that energy. That's important. So that's first thing. And then I would say, so the projects we have the temple, morning program, the Sunday feast also every Sunday. But we also have other projects. We go on Harinam, but in a different way, because we have a Radha-Kripa Mission, but we have another organization. It's called Ahimsa Nonviolence. So it's an NGO that promotes nonviolence through music. We have a rock band, but it's songs about Krishna, but it's rock music, but it's to promote Krishna, to promote nonviolence. So we do music shows where we promote nonviolence. We with this NGO also, we go on the street, we do Harinam, but dressed like bikers because we have a bikers group for nonviolence. I mean, we do this to break a little bit the mold, to show that everything can be engaged in Krishna's service. And this is something very important. I think we need in the Sankirtan movement to create diversity. Because like you see, the Christians, they are in every kind of music. If you see Christian music, they have rap Christian music, like you have rock, you have pop, they're everywhere in music. There's so much spread. And since we understand that everything is Krishna and the principle is Yukta Vairagya, that Rupa Goswami says in Nectar of Devotion that everything, since we don't own anything, everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord, that everything can be engaged in the service of the Lord because everything is Krishna. What makes the difference is your consciousness when you use it. Example, you can do something that is devotional. You could do a kirtan, but it could become something completely material if you don't put devotion into it. Well, in the same way, you can take a bike, you can go, like travel with bikes and meet people, and it can be something completely spiritual. It just depends on the consciousness. That's what makes the difference. If you look, for example, demons in Vrindavan, like there were demons that entered Vrindavan to try to kill Krishna. They were in Vrindavan, but were their consciousness in Vrindavan? No. Although they were in Vrindavan, their consciousness was not in Vrindavan. So someone can live in Vrindavan, but cannot necessarily be in Vrindavan. Someone can live in New York City, but can be in Vrindavan. So in the same way, someone can take a motorbike and play rock music, even as a sannyasi, and can be in Vrindavan. So it's just a question of consciousness. And again, that's what is important. When we use things, it's about consciousness. So we have this Ahimsa non-violence. We go, once a week we do Harinam dress as bikers because we promote as bikers, because we have this bikers group for non-violence. In the summer, we do a lot of bike runs where we go in different villages and cities. We do Harinam, we meet people, and we promote, non-violence. We also 3 times a week we distribute prasadam on Monday to students, university students, and on Tuesday and Friday we go to a park where there are poor people and we share prasadam. All year round we do that. So this is one thing. We have a yoga school also, in order to maintain ourselves here, because in Rouen we don't have so many Indians. We don't have Indian congregations coming to the temple. So we maintain ourselves with this yoga school. We have yoga, meditation, relaxation classes. We have 3 monks here that are yoga teachers. We are 20 monks in the temple, but it's more like a family. We have brahmacharis, brahmacharinis, sannyasis. We have couples that live here. We have a whole family with 2 children. So it's more like a family. And because there's a family mood, it inspires, grihastas to come and live with us. Couples and families with their children, because the mood is, I'm trying to look for the word in English, propice in French. The mood is favorable for that, So that's what we're doing. Also, we, because my guru, Bhakti Govinda Maharaj, who is the founder Acharya of this mission, of Radha-Kripa Mission, he had a very difficult past, very difficult past. He used to be like an ex-skinhead, and he was ultra-violent. He was, in a gang of skinheads. He had a very difficult past, and because of that, he really can understand what people can go through when they are going through these kinds of things. So because he had this difficult past, and a lot of people are connecting with him. On Facebook, he does a lot of posts, where he speaks, to violent people and things like that. He does a lot of conferences in prisons and different places to try to help people get out of violence, because he moved from hatred to love completely. So this is something that we are doing also. He's doing different conferences to try to inspire people to get out of violence. And I would say, the way we are, because we're a family mood, but because also, some of us here also had difficult lives before. Our own guru here, he had a very difficult past. We're able to connect more easily with people with very difficult lives. And it allows for people who are in a very difficult state of consciousness or life to receive mercy. Imagine, just like Prabhupada was giving mercy to these hippies, here we're trying to connect people who are ex-skinheads, people who committed sometimes murders, things like that, like drug dealers, and very difficult past. We're connecting them to mercy, although generally speaking, they will not be able on their own to connect to that mercy, because they just have too much negativity in their life, So that's one aspect also. Although we have the temple and we have, strict sadhana every day, at the same time, we're very open and we create a mood by which people of a very difficult background can connect to Krishna consciousness. And that this is something that is important for us. By this, we want to show that Krishna consciousness is for everyone. We just need to bring it down to the level of the person so that person can accept it. And for that, we need flexibility. For that, we need open-mindedness. For that, we need maturity, I would say.
Why is the mission called the Radha-Kripa Mission? How did the name come about?
Oh, that's a nice question. That's a very nice question. What to say about this? Well, Radharani is the origin of mercy. We understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how did Krishna come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? It's because he felt 5,000 years ago, after accomplishing his pastimes in Vrindavan, he felt that he did not give enough mercy to the people. He just gave the mercy to the people that were there, the Brajbasis, or those who connected to Vrindavan.
Mm.
And he felt a lack. He was saying, I would like to give more, but it's not the good time right now. So he came, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's Krishna covered by the Karuna Shakti, the potency of compassion of Srimati Radharani. So the Isha Shakti, which means the potency of willpower of Krishna, that he is the Supreme Lord, becomes completely covered by the Karuna Shakti, which is the energy of compassion of Radharani. And because of that, he loses his free will, not his free will, but his ability of justice. Krishna is justice also, and he just gives freely, He loses his free will. He gives freely because he's inundated by the mercy of and feeling of compassion of Srimati Radharani. So that's why we call Radha-Kripa Mission. Radha-Kripa means the mercy of Radharani. So ultimately, we understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes because of Radha-Kripa, because of the mercy of Radharani. So for us, we feel very indebted to Srimati Radharani for her mercy, to have sent, to have inspired Krishna because of her deep love for him, to have inspired Krishna to come in this world and to share prema, with all living entities. So for that, we come to her and we prostrate ourselves at her lotus feet and we beg for her mercy because we understand that she is the original cause of mercy. And that's why we call it Akripa, because in our life we have been touched by that mercy and we want everyone else also to receive that mercy of Srimati Radharani.
Wow. Thank you, Maharaj. Can we talk now about you have a fundraising campaign that you're doing at the moment at the temple. Can we talk a bit about the fundraising campaign and what you're raising money for in particular?
Yes. So in our temple, we not only have these deities I was explaining about, but we also have 10,300 Shalagram Shilas that we've got the great fortune to collect over the years on the riverbed of the sacred Kaligandaki River in the heart of the Himalayas in Nepal. And I've been myself also many times to Nepal to collect Shalagram Shilas. It's just very special. A Shalagram Shila is a direct manifestation of Krishna. It is explained that it doesn't need to be installed. Like when you want to put a deity on the altar on a temple, you need to install the deity. But since the Shila is a direct manifestation of Krishna, it doesn't need to be installed. It's directly Krishna. It's very mystical. It is described in the scriptures. There are 64 kinds of Shalagram Shilas that manifest different aspects of Krishna, whether it is Gopal or Nishingadev or Lakshmi Narayan. You can see on the video that there's different kinds of Shilas, and so basically over the years we brought them back from Nepal and we wanted to make this temple of over 10,000 Shalagram Shilas.
Wow.
So now they're in a very small room just next to my room. Very small. It used to be a room before, but it's the only place we have. So, and they're really, maybe you can share that video that I made
Yes.
on YouTube. Like you can see they're in this very small room, and we don't have enough space to give them proper worship because we bathe them, we oil them, and we want to offer them a nice temple. So because it's 10,200 times Krishna.
Wow.
So we want to give these 10,000 direct manifestations of Krishna a nice home to live. So we are making a plan to build a nice wooden altar that will make in India, in Mayapur, that will send by boat and that will we have like a big yoga room here that is unused at the moment, and we'll make the temple in there with a nice wooden altar, and we'll put the Shilas there on display with windows that people, can come and take darshan of the Shalagram Shilas, because right now they are in the ashram and nobody can come and see them. They cannot take darshan of the deities because they are in the ashram part of the temple. So we want to create a temple so that everyone can come and take darshan of these 10,300 Shalagram Shilas.
Wow.
We made a
Wow.
GoFundMe campaign. We're trying to raise 40,000 euros because everything costs money in this world, especially when you want to build a wooden altar. Not only you have to create it, but also you have to send by boat, pay for customs, and this raises the price quite a lot. So we're trying to raise 40,000 euros so that we can offer these 10,000 Krishna, this beautiful temple, and we're all kindly asking for your help. If you can help, if some of you will be inspired to give something on the GoFundMe campaign or share the video, the YouTube video with your friends, maybe inspire others also to give something, that would be really appreciated, because it is stated in the Agni Purana that when you help for the construction of a temple, you are assured a place in the spiritual world in your next life. So there's a great fortune and very great blessing to be had when you help in the construction of the temple.
Mm. Thank you, Maharaj. I will definitely put a link to the YouTube film about the fundraising campaign and the GoFundMe page as well. And if anyone is interested in donating, please do donate. It's definitely a worthwhile campaign. I've been to the temple in Rouen, and I'm actually returning in a few weeks' time as well. So I can vouch firsthand that Radha-Kripa Mission is a very authentic mission where they're really working on the front line of spreading Krishna consciousness. And you've actually answered one of my questions, Maharaj, which was going to be, are you building a new temple room on the grounds? But I think you said you already have a yoga room that
Yes,
you're
exactly.
converting, and
Yes,
that's in the new
yes.
building that I visited.
Oh, yeah. So the new building is, or because previously we had like a smaller room where we're doing the yoga classes, but it was too small for the number of students. So we created a building just next door where we could have a bigger yoga space to host more students, but also on the second floor, we have like apartments for families and couples to come and live in with us. So we created that. And now we have that previous yoga space that is free, so that we can use for making the temple for the Shalagram Shila.
Wow, it's quite amazing. And yeah, I'd encourage anyone to donate to that if they can. It's definitely a worthwhile cause. Believe it or not, Maharaj, we've been talking for well over an hour already. I knew that we would have a wonderful conversation. I've really appreciated our time today, our
Thank you.
conversation. And as I've mentioned just now, I'm returning to Rouen myself in a few weeks' time to visit the devotees there. It was my last trip abroad in 2023, I think, and it will be my first trip away in 2024. So I'm very much looking forward to visiting. And I did come to one of those bikers meetings. You had like a bikers meeting in the community room, the community hall. And I love it when devotees try new things and when they're willing to step outside of their comfort zones and try something new and radical to share Krishna consciousness. One of the ways, or one of the reasons Christianity has been so successful for 2,000 years is because it's learned to adapt. So the
Exactly.
message of Christianity has stayed the same largely. There's some
Mhm.
deviations a little bit, but the way Christianity is presented is so different in different parts of the world based on denominations and cultures and nationalities even. And I really love it when devotees in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition branch out socially to try new things. And I went to a bikers meeting and it was wonderful. So everybody was wearing bikers clothing. But your Guru Maharaj was talking about devotional topics.
Yes.
It was most wonderful, and I love it how the congregation, the devotees that live at the temple, are really supportive of that ahimsa non-violence ministry as well. um and I've actually recently seen that uh there's a new music video. The rock band has a new music
Yes.
video. I saw it recently on YouTube and I loved it. I've subscribed to the YouTube channel. Because you're absolutely right in Christianity. So I have in my van I have DAB digital radio, so I'm always kind of skipping through, and they have what's it called, UCB, which is a Christian radio station, and every time I skip through, they're playing different types of music, but it's all Christian.
Amazing.
Sometimes it's traditional, sometimes it's rock, sometimes it's jazz, but it's just all on the Christian theme. And so I just love what you're doing in Rouen. And I
But
think, please.
what you're saying, what you're saying, it reminds me, in a Satsvarup Maharaj, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, in a book called Vaishnav Compassion, he says something very interesting. He says that, in preaching, you have certain devotees that are more liberal and certain that are more conservative, but both are important because actually some people will connect more to the liberal aspect and some others will connect more to the conservative. And that's what I find we have a good balance here, because if you come to the temple, you can see that we have a very serious spiritual life. We have a conservative aspect. I mean, I'm a sannyasi. Every day I dress in sannyasi cloth, I mean, but at the same time, we have a liberal aspect because especially in France is a very tough cookie to crack. I mean, there's a special historical background also. So it's not easy. That's why, like if we're just in too much in the conservative aspect, we have to like you were saying, we have to adapt according to time, place, and circumstance. And that's why I find that we have to be flexible, like especially in France, in order to be able to be more in harmony with the French people. The fact that we are not only, authentic in what we're doing in our tradition, but at the same time open, showing that we're doing rock music we're living with the people on the street, giving prasadam and things like that, is allowing for people to see that we're just also part of society, That's something that is very important. We have to show that we're part of society, that we're not like extra, like that we're not completely separated. Because in that way, people, they can relate more. When they see that we are connected, we have our 2 feet on the ground, we're connected to society, to people, but at the same time, we have a strong spiritual life, then for people, it makes it a little bit more acceptable, when they see that, I mean, we're part of society. We do things in connection, but at the same time, we're spiritual. So I think that balance in what we're doing is good. It creates more balance and harmony. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I agree completely with what you've said about ensuring that both the liberals and the conservatives are both are valuable and both are included. So I gave some talks this last summer on inclusive Vaishnavism, because I was going through this train of thought in my life where I was maybe recognizing a lot of devotees were talking about progressive Vaishnavism, and that's very important, and being progressive can be important, and I would probably put myself in that progressive camp. But also you want others who are not progressive to also be included. So we're trying to develop this concept and practice of inclusive Vaishnavism here at the Hare Krishna Project, where we might be maybe liberal or progressive ourselves, but we also want to include the conservatives as well. We want everyone to feel a sense of value and worth, and that they fit in if they want to fit in.
Exactly, really important.
Yeah. And I've certainly seen that at the Radha-Kripa Mission. There's that inclusive Vaishnavism approach where come and be yourself, whatever that means, and serve and associate with the devotees in a very simple and humble way. So it was wonderful. And when I come back to Rouen in February, I will be coming on one of those Harinams, those street kirtans. I'm looking forward to seeing it in action and seeing how the French public react to you in the Republic. Okay, Maharaj, we've had a wonderful conversation today.
Yes, thank you so much.
Really, really appreciate your time and sharing your story. Everybody has a story to share. So I'm just going to say goodbye to the viewers at home, and then you and I can have a very brief debrief after. But a big thank you to His Holiness Bhakti Govinda Swami Maharaj for being our 103rd guest on the Hare Krishna Project podcast. A big thank you to everyone who tunes in on a weekly basis to watch this podcast. Do not forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the all-important subscribe button so you keep updated about future podcasts and video productions from the Hare Krishna Project. If you're watching this on Facebook, please do like or follow the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page so you're kept updated about future podcasts and other things that we're doing here at the Hare Krishna Project as well. And I will, with this podcast, put those links to those very important links to the fundraising campaign that the Radha-Kripa Mission is doing in Rouen. So until next week, I'll see you all soon. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.